So now we're in South London, close to Waterloo. I found this place through a friend of mine, and it was the most amazing place because it's close to the Waterloo train tracks, and you would never think that such an amazing studio compound is here. So I'm one of 70 other artist studios, and there's a very nice sense of community here. I've met other artists, we ended up collaborating together, or just the fact that it's a mix of people. So there are a lot of artists, but you also have all sorts of different creatives. So you have fashion designers, photographers, architects, and sometimes I work on different projects and I need someone's help, and the great thing is that I know that there will be a photographer around the corner if I need to have my sculptures photographed, or if I need a tip about sewing, because that's what I'm using at the moment in my practice. The last series have been a lot using hand-blown glass, vintage fur, so I recycle vintage fur coats. I combine them with very tactile materials like sand, but I'm really interested in exploring new mediums and materials all the time. So I've been doing a bit of welding and recently throwing, so really manipulating the clay, which I find being a very interesting material because my work is so much about the body. Clay is so much linked to the flesh and the way you touch it, and how you need water for it to come to life, and the body is made of 70% of water. I guess anything that's organic and tactile I'm very drawn to. The exploration of materials is never ending. It's a constant process, so I think it's I'm at a point where I've learned a lot already with the materials I've used, but I'm really eager to move forward, try things out. At the moment, for instance, I've found a text that I wrote when I was 15, and 15 is an interesting age. It's the discovery of your sexuality, and I found it was quite intimidating for me to read it, and embarrassing a little bit, but I could already pick up on the thing that I'm interested in today. I was describing objects in such a delicate way, and I was very curious already, and so I'm using that text as a starting point for a sculpture. So this is one way to start a sculpture. Sometimes I just sketch, and then some shape or idea will come to life, and then I'll translate that into a sculpture again. I was really lucky to work with James Putnam for my show in January, which was based for its concept on the uncanny. James was interested, he read my thesis, he was asking questions, and we had a really nice dialogue back and forth, and that's what made the show that we did for Roncchini so much richer, is because he really understood my practice as a whole. And it wasn't just about the objects put in the gallery, it was so much more about the research I had done, which brought the meaning to the final pieces. So the final pieces are just what you see at the end of it, but there's the whole research that consolidates it, and that's why I think the relationship with the curator is very important, because that's where it will arise and come to life, is they will bring the emphasis on that. Living is the most important source of inspiration. Observing the way people move, the way people talk, how objects suddenly come to life, and how we put our emphasis onto these objects, and suddenly we have emotions for inanimate objects. That's what I find really interesting, where we suddenly, surrounded with these things, and they're dead material, but yet the emphasis we put on them and the stories we built in our minds about these objects make them come to life. And I think that's just so interesting, the way we convince ourselves that something is so important. And I think it's from our childhood already. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott was talking about the transitional phenomenon, and how we need an object to understand the distinction between our bodies and our mother's bodies. And so already at a very young age we need a teddy bear or a blanket or something to get to understand ourselves, the boundaries of our bodies. And so at a very young age objects are crucial.